Hi partners, this is a video for the online trial process. So in the email I sent, you have a link to the staging.com, which is a temporary site and running the download free trial. So on here you'll see this is kind of the page that we're setting up. We're still cleaning up some of the content here, but you kind of get the idea. Basically all you need to do is go to the request now, and you only get one shot at this. So if you go ahead and fill out your information inside of here, your email will only be used once. After you use it once, you won't be able to do this again until we reset it. So just use something that hasn't been done before, and hopefully this one has not been used, so I'm going to give this a go. Send some information in here, check that you're not a robot, wait for that to finish, and we can see all this information here, and go ahead and hit submit. And this will go ahead and process the request for the online trial. And we notice it's telling you that you need to have an email valid for you, and you get a thank you information, and if you have any contact information, contact your local reseller, which will link to that as well. So once this is done, you need to check your email for whatever you submitted. Again, this will only work once. So if we go into our email system, we can now see I've got an email from support. Now notice this is still the beta stage of this, so it's the template's there, but the content is not. So don't worry about that right now, but this is just an example for you. This is what you should receive right now. And so this link, it will be valid for 24 hours from the time you got that email. So 3/26 tomorrow, this is going to expire. You won't be able to access this trial version. So go ahead and click on this to give it a go. All right, so now we're loading up the session here. You can see that it started a new tab in our default browser, and it has a kind of a long stream here. This is the Amazon Web Service path to IronCAD, but you can see this is actually loading the user settings here. Again, this server is sitting in Virginia, so the performance may be a little slow depending on where you're sitting, but the first time it will kind of load your user settings for your first time in, just kind of detecting various things like your screen size and whatnot, and also maybe checking to see if there's any other users on it. So if we have so many number of instances running, so you may take a second to load up another instance if everybody hits it at the same time. But anyways, once it loads, you can see IronCAD Startup here as a default interface. It may, for your systems, it may start up with the trial here, like you would start a new user. But mine, I already kind of started it once, so you can kind of see that it starts where I left it off. And it runs just like IronCAD. So there's nothing to install. It's basically IronCAD running in a browser. And you can see that it has the full interface here. You can drag and drop objects out here, push and pull those objects. It should be pretty dynamic inside of there. Let's go back and make this a little longer and add another feature here. All your smart snaps should show. You can use your tri-ball inside of there to make your copies. It should interact fairly smooth. That shouldn't go flying off the screen, in other words. Go ahead and make those changes. All your behaviors, your hotkeys, all that stuff should work just like you're familiar with IronCAD. And you can see this performance. So the slower performances would be rotations, but design-wise, you should be pretty good. But anything that's doing with rotation is some sort of graphical interaction, so it does depend on your internet. So for the people internationally, this may be a little slow since it's coming from Virginia, especially if you're on your slow internet speed. If you have a decent speed, it should be okay, but if you're on a slow one, it will be noticeable inside of here. But this is kind of the workflow inside of here, and you can work and save files. So if you wanted to save this file and work on it later, you just hit save. It will give you a temporary home folder. Mine has some files in here, but don't worry about that. It should be cleaned out when you guys log in. You can create, testing files here, and you hit save to create those files, and it will save those for you. And when you go into your open, you will see those testing files there to access and load those under your account. And those will store with your session. So anytime you exit out of this and come back into it during that 24 hours, you can still access those files. If you wanted to upload files, you have this bar at the top where you can do various things. This is kind of showing you what's available, like Chrome and IronCAD are the two applications we enabled on here for right now. You also have a switch windows. If you have multiple things open, it would show you all the ones open. Right now, IronCAD's the only one open. If you did things like the add-ins and you generated a web viewer, those would actually show in another browser, like a Chrome browser, and you would have to use this to toggle between those to get a play with those files. Just one other thing I noticed here, we do have everything active on this instance. So you have IronCAD Mechanical, the translators installed here as well. IronCAD Mechanical should be on here. I'm not sure. Yeah, there's Multiphysics for IronCAD should be on here as well. You can try that on here as well if you want to try those applications out. We haven't put KeyShot on here yet, but that could be something we can add on here as well during the trial period. In the files, you have two folders. You have a temporary and your home folder. The home folder is the one where you use most of the time. But if you go in here, you can actually create new folders inside of here. You can upload files. So if you have, for example, you want to try an old ICS file, or if you want to try an imported file, you would just upload it to these files, and then you're accessible within the IronCAD application once they're uploaded. When you hit open, that home folder is what you're seeing, or you can also browse to the temporary files if you want as well, but that's what you're seeing inside of there that you upload, and you can access it inside of there, or in the import dialog will also show those same locations, so you can access like a Parasolid file that you upload and try that. So that's what the user's experience would be. If they want to try this online, they can upload anything they want and try it during this trial. There's some settings in here, like if you doesn't really apply to us, but I can't really turn them off, is some of these settings inside of here. Screen resolutions, if you want to adjust it. You can minimize this and adjust your window size if you want as well, but most likely you wouldn't want to do that inside of here. Some other things, you can enter a full screen mode, which kind of just gets rid of the browser at the top, so you're running full screen, sort of like on IronCAD window. It'll resize, it'll take it a second just based on your performance, but you are running kind of a full screen mode, just like you would IronCAD. So kind of handy as well from that. So it just takes a second to resize it for it to refresh everything inside of there. One last thing, I do want to highlight, when you want to exit out of IronCAD or out of this session of the browser, try not to hit the X up here, because that'll keep the session running for a little while. If the session is not used for 15 minutes, it'll close it down and free it up for other people. But if you are actually done during this trial, during our alpha stage, just come over to this icon at the far right and click on End Session. That will end the session and end the instance, so it'll free it up for anybody else that wants to use it outside of there. Because we have a number of instances open, and every time we access one, we take that instance away from the pool. So at some point in time, it'll reach, if everybody tries it all at once, we would have some instances not available. You might have to wait a little bit for that to become available. That's just because it charges us for those instances. So we want to make sure we have enough running. We'll adjust that as we get going to this and try this with trials and see how the workflow works. But anyways, once you're done, it'll refer you right to the How to Buy IronCAD. So anybody during the trial will come in here. They'll show you how to buy. You can request a quote, access a reseller, or ask access for educational license, which will also change a little later in the process. Anyways, so this is kind of the flow for it. So again, just fill out your email. You'll get the email on the staging site for the download trial. You'll get an email link in your inbox. Again, you can only do that once, and that is active for 24 hours. And it will be, you can run for 8 hours in one single session, but you can exit and come back anytime, as many times as you want during that 24-hour period. And then also just make sure you exit out of the system using the end session just to free up the other instances for other people that are trying it, and we'll be good to go. And we look forward to hearing your feedback and seeing how the performance goes in different regions. And we'll set up different, potentially set up different servers throughout the regions to make it a better performance or better user experience for our users. Thank you, and have fun.